Hey, everybody. Welcome to the Brave Healing Podcast, where the mission is to change the world one brave word at a time. Thank you guys so much for tuning in today, to be here to listen to these badasses I have on the show today. I'm your hostess, Laura DeFranco, and man, do I have some extra special healers here and some magical juju in store for you today in this episode. I have with me Richard Bradison. Hey, Richard.
Hi, Laura. How you doing?
I have Dr. Kim Bird Ryder.
Hello, Laura.
And I have Miss Kim B. Miller with me.
Hey, Laura.
And I have Lilia Shoshana Ray. Thanks, everyone, for being here today.
Hi, Laura. Glad to be here.
So what these four amazing humans have in common, aside from being holistic healers, all of them, is that they are all co-authors of The Ultimate Guide to Self-Healing, Volume 2. So the story goes, the Ultimate Guide to Self-Healing book series was born, you guys, with a mission to help people heal at home. This idea came smack dab in the middle of COVID. In about May, we launched, and the idea was to begin to help people by building a community where we could empower people to connect to that inner healer and really learn tools that they could practice without anyone else around, right? It's powerful stuff. So I'm really proud to say that that first book became a #1 international Amazon bestseller in the chronic pain category, and super proud to announce that we're about to get to Volume 2 here sometime in July. So let me introduce to you the author, experts, and stellar humans that I have here and that you see with me. Richard W. Bradison is both a technologist, healer, and a poet, you guys. He was ordained in 2000 as an interfaith minister and retired at the end of 2007. Uh-oh, what happened? I'm like seeing my screens roll around and everyone's disappearing.
Me and Kim are still here.
The Kims are here. The Kims got
it. The Kims are here.
On top of it.
I'm gonna pray that
That's
I see
Kim, okay?
Oh my gosh. I'm going to pray I see the admit button a couple of times here. I'm going to go on until I see it, you guys. And you know, the show cannot stop. Okay. And maybe I should just skip to Kim's bio, which I will do. I'll get back to Richard. Richard left me. Okay. So Dr. Kim Bird Ryder is a physical therapist. Oh my God, this is a first, you guys. And psychologist. She has taught thousands of hours of yoga and has 4 science degrees in healthcare. By teaching holistic courses to healthcare workers and medical science courses to holistic healers, easy for you to say, Kim, she fosters holistic and medical healthcare systems to cross-pollinate. I love that idea, forming new, more powerful, comprehensive, utopian healthcare systems. And Kim B. Miller is, I added this, don't hate me, is the goddess of haiku and a native New Yorker. She's an empowering motivational speaker who will touch your heart, mind, and soul. This award-winning spoken word poet loves writing and performing. Her poetry is her heart expressed in words. Opinionated, blunt, thought-provoking, and real. And if Lilia and Richard join us again, I will read their bios, you guys. I mean, what are we going to do with this Zoom nonsense? Okay, ladies, welcome.
Thank you.
Okay, so Dr. Kim.
Yes.
Tell us about this chapter you wrote.
Well, the chapter is called Flat Abs, so it sounds, very biological. And I have 2 degrees in physical therapy, a master's and a doctorate. So I am all about the body. There's no doubt. But that's just really the hook. But flat abs aren't important. People think they're important because of the way they look. That's not their importance. So when you have flat abs, you have a strong core, or you have a strong transverse abdominis, which is your deepest abdominal muscle. When that particular muscle is strong, you have less back pain, you have better back support, you have better posture, your breathing is better, everything improves, your pelvic floor operates better. So it's really about the function of the body improves exponentially when that particular muscle of the core gets really strong. And so the hook is the flat abs. But that's just that's a fantastic side effect that we all love.
Okay, I totally thought of you the other day as I was
Yeah.
laying on the floor on my back doing
Yeah.
my abdominals, and I started to do the curl up, and I thought, oh my gosh, no.
Yay!
I'm like, what are you doing? You just read this amazing chapter about how you're going to do this better, and
Yeah.
I'm being serious. And so
Yeah.
I started, of course, I'm a physical therapist also, so I know
Right.
all the ab stuff, but why do we always want the six pack, you know?
The military started that years ago. Maybe Jack LaLanne helped start that. That's in the 1950s.
Jack LaLanne, oh my gosh,
You
don't
know,
age yourself.
Yeah. I used to watch him as a little kid do his jumping jacks on TV, but he started the exercise revolution for normal people. But in the military, of course, they were always trying to get strong. But they started these ab crunches, which only trains the rectus abdominis, which is a little strip down the front of your belly. And it makes you hunch over. It makes you hunch forward. So if you get that stronger and tighter, you're actually creating poor posture, as opposed to the deeper transverse that I'm using my hands, because that's how it goes around your body. It circles the body.
Awesome. Okay, so welcome back, Richard and Lilia. We have no idea what happened earlier. We're so glad to have you back.
We took a power hit.
Power hit.
Oh, that's
There's a
interesting.
going on here.
Oh, crazy. Okay, so, you guys left us right in the middle of Richard's bio, so I'm going to reread Richard and Lilia in just a moment. So stay tuned there, guys. I'm glad you're back, though. I told you the show stops for nothing. So whatever, acts of God, the angels dropping things into your window. I don't know, you never know. Okay. So the thing is with this, you talk about breathing, Dr. Kim. Mm-hmm. So tell me a little bit more about that piece of it and the connection, because I don't think the layman, the avid fitness buff would typically think of that in connected with their flat abs.
Not even the therapy community would not connect that with flat abs.
Yeah.
Like I train physical therapists across the country, and when I introduce this concept, they're like, oh my gosh, I never thought of that. But the beauty of it is it's a breathing technique and anyone can do it. So I'm working in the hospitals and in the nursing homes, and that group is not like the military group. They can't even get out of bed onto the floor. So I've got to come up with something that can really strengthen the abdominals while you're laying down, while you're bedridden, while you're in the hospital. And so this really, really works. And also you're strengthening the diaphragm. And when you are bedridden, or you don't move around a lot, or you have a sedentary lifestyle, or you're just a normal person, you need to be strengthening the diaphragm muscle and the muscles of the rib cage. Of all of your skeletal muscles, there's only one skeletal muscle that is critical, like you can't live without it, and that is the diaphragm. Like you don't need any of these other muscles to live. You'll still be alive, but when the diaphragm goes, so do you. So with this breathing technique, it recruits the diaphragm, your one critical muscle. But the other reason why I chose a breathing technique is because that bio that you read, that's a mouthful. There's holistic healing, and then there's allopathic, or traditional healing, like the medical world is called allopathic. So we've got these two different types of healing, but this breathing technique that flattens the abs brings the two together. Because of the breathing technique, the spirit and the breath are entangled somehow. They may be the same thing. There's a lot of people that believe the breath is the spirit. And throughout history, traditional languages all use the exact same word for spirit that they use for breath. We're talking Greek, even like the Jewish languages, all at Hebrew. Sorry, took me a second.
It was on my tongue
Hebrew,
too,
I know,
yes.
you're like, Hebrew. So all of these really old Greek, Latin, they're all using the same word for breath that they use for spirit. But we do know that they come into the body at the same time, and they leave the body at the same time. So somehow they're together. They're moving together if they're not the same thing. So as you do this ab work to flatten your abs and look pretty, you're actually not only doing allopathic medicine, all the things I mentioned before for your spine and your posture and your breathing, But you're also doing holistic medicine, which is about the spirit and the focus. And not only are you recruiting the spirit when you're focusing on the breath, because the spirit's tied to the breath, but you're also reining in the mind. And that's the real trick of holistic medicine is, you know, the mind is bouncing all over the place. And the minute you start doing a breathing technique, that's the spirit saying, come here, come back, watch this, watch my breath, sit with me here, come back to where I'm at. And so what it does is it unifies the intellectual mind to the spirit. And then you're working the body, and now you have a unity of the mind, the body, and the breath. And that is the platform that you move forward from to move into self-actualization and all these other fun holistic things. But you've got to start with this platform of a unified mind, body, and breath.
I love the explanation. I'm such an anatomy geek as well. I'm sure you are too.
Definitely.
But I love how you just tied in that those two together. I had never heard it talked about like that before. So had a little light bulb moment. Oh my goodness, I've got a little tiny bug in my face. Okay.
Yeah, I geek out about it too. And I spend way too much time thinking about this sort of thing. But it takes really thinking about it and going, what do I want to accomplish here? What am I trying to unify? What platform do I need to grow? I can't believe I put this potted plant here, but what pot do I need to start this beautiful thing growing? And bringing the holistic and the allopathic together gives you that nice solid pot to grow from.
I love it. Thank you. Okay, you guys, I'm going to repeat Mr. Richard W. Bradison's bio for you guys because he kind of disappeared. Wait, we got some massive echo there. Why do we have that? What are you guys doing? Listening to your phone at the same time? What's happening over there? Okay, that sounds better. Richard W. Bradison is both a technologist, healer, and a poet. He was ordained in 2000 as an interfaith minister and retired at the end of 2007 after 40 years in aerospace and communications. He currently studies, practices, and teaches Qigong. Did I say that right? Qigong.
Yes.
Okay, so Richard, I cannot wait to hear about your chapter. Tell us.
My chapter is about a very simple, straightforward Qigong practice. It's a single practice, and I describe it in less than 2,500 words. I've also developed a video of that practice so that as a resource for the chapter, I actually demonstrate it so that it's very clear and simple for people to try. It was interesting listening to most of Dr. Kim's talk because she talks so much about the breath. And in Qigong, that is primary. The breathing that we go through, it's deep belly breathing, it's abdominal breathing, it's engaging the diaphragm, which, by the way, is connected to the vagus nerve, which is so important for the entire body. And so we begin with the breath, and then we add some movement to that. And that's all that Qigong is about. It's a very internal or inner practice, as opposed to a martial art, for example, that's more outward oriented, more defense oriented. Qigong is more gentle, and it's more about the inner energy of our body that we want to, basically the word is cultivate. Qigong is a cultivation of our inner energy, which by the Chinese word for energy is qi. There's lots of different kinds of qi. My connection is not the best since our power blipped out, so bear with me, and I can switch out if we need to. My other computer is back up again.
Dad, you came back in. You're good.
Okay, good. So anyway, qi, which is basically the breath. It's also the internal energy I've just been talking about. Gong, G-O-N-G, is a word that means work. And so one translation of Qigong is breath work, which I think is something that Dr. Kim was just talking about.
Mhm.
That's why I think we're on in the show together, and that's why I think we're in this in this book with companion chapters about this kind of self-healing approach. Qigong at its root is really moving meditation. It's that simple. We go inside, we get in touch with our breath, and then we add some very graceful, simple movements to that breathing. I'm doing Qigong right now, bringing Qi into the body as I inhale and then letting it go as I exhale. And so a very simple kind of Qigong is simply graceful movement that's combined and coordinated with our breathing. And as I said, the breathing is deep to the belly first, and then it rises up through the entire body, all the way to the top of the head, if you can visualize that. And then the exhale is the opposite, mostly always through the nose. So it engages the nose. In fact, it engages all of our senses as we meditate. And for me, it's the perfect way to meditate. I'm not one that is able to sit still on a cushion and go inside and just go into the emptiness. I love doing that when I can get there, but I get there so much faster and so much more easily through Qigong, because the move, maybe it's just my body that needs to move all the time. You probably see me jiggling on the video now, but it's that cultivate it, which is what Qigong is. Cultivate that energy, calm it down, smooth it down, boost our immune system, boost our just our way of being a peaceful warrior. And that's what Qigong does for me, and that's what I hope my chapter will do, as it instructs the reader on a very simple movement, which, as I said, combines the breath, meditation, and a simple movement to kind of calm ourselves and relax and ground.
Beautiful, thank you. So one of the things that's so amazing about these books is that you'll see themes run through them. And of course, you know, one thing is any one of you could have written about many tools, right? And so I challenged you all to pick just one for the reader, to keep it really simple and to get, you know, allow them to have an experience, a very simple but powerful experience. And so I thank you for taking the challenge and saying yes to that, when I know you all could have written about many different things. But of course, when you talk about breathing, in our first book, I started to count the number of chapters where the author was talking about breathing and breath work. And it kind of sounds funny to say, well, you know, breathing is kind of important because if you're not breathing, you know, you got a really big problem. But one of the other themes that I started to read was intuition, was the connection, you know, and of course, awareness. You'll see in every single chapter the theme of awareness, written differently by every author, which is brilliant. I'm in love with that part of the book. So Miss Kim B. Miller, Goddess of Haiku, that's my title for her, you guys. Talk to us about your chapter.
Okay, well, first, now that you said haiku, I have to start off with one. Haiku.
Okay, good. Haiku.
If you won't think outside of your box, then you're living in a coffin.
Oh, my goodness. Okay, so in the poetry world, you guys, if you're like turned on by the words, you get to snap and you can clap and you can like make noise. It's not rude to make noise, okay? So we're all good. Thank you for that, Kim.
So my chapter is about recognizing accomplishments for radical mindset change. And the reason why I wrote about that, it was something that I was overlooking myself.
So tell me more about why that's important.
It's important because you don't, when I would mentor people and I'd say, what did you do today? 90% of the time I get nothing. I'm like, really? So break down your day a little further from nothing. Backtrack for me and tell me what you did. And they say, well, I wrote my first chapter of my book. I'm like, okay. And then later on they said, well, I diddled a little bit and have an idea for a cover. And then later they'd say, blah, 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 blah. I'm like, but you told me you did nothing. Sounds like you did some things, but I'm not finished. So that mentality of not being finished was negating their accomplishments that they made.
Hmm. So this is a mindset game here.
Yes.
So what is the thing you have to do to up that game when you're talking about your own accomplishments?
First, you have to recognize you're doing it, because I didn't recognize I was doing it. So how can you fix something unless you know it's broken? I use the old car thing. If you get 4 tires, if all 4 are rolling, you don't know they're flat, you keep going until one starts going, then you're like, oh, well, now you recognize it. So my job is to get them to first recognize that they're doing it, because if you don't recognize you're doing it, you won't stop.
Yeah, first key to almost everything, right? And I always I'm interested in how we help people wake to it, right? So I mean, your all of your chapters are doing that. When somebody gets a different perspective about something and they literally wake up in the matter of a few lines that you have written in a book, don't you guys think that's a miracle? It's a miracle to me, right?
Yes.
Like, and so we're all doing it in our own unique badass voice. And 100 people could write about this topic, and you'd have 100 different ways for people to understand it, all good, right? And I love that. So I forgot to tell you this, Kim B, but I was having a conversation with my mom just last week as we all started to roll with these chapters. And she started laying into me about, it wasn't just I did nothing, but it was all the negative stuff of her day. I'm like, you have done a lot, Mom. I was giving Mom the lecture,
Exactly.
You've done this and this and this. I'm like, you need to read Kim B's chapter right now, but people don't get that they're in it.
Mm. And as soon as you realize you're in it, and another way of doing it, and you start practicing, because I have steps with the music, etc. in there, your whole mindset's changed, because mine did it. When I started playing, and on my link to my page, it gives them some of my songs, because that's my number one question. What's your songs? People are all nosy. So I put a couple of my songs in. Once I put a couple of my songs up and I get in my Kim zone, as I call it, make it a whole mood. Change your whole thinking, make it a whole mood. And you watch how you start to turn around, because it's not, oh, let me check the box off. Oh, I did something. No, this is power time. Look what I did. You better step back. Can't touch this. It sounds
I love that
silly,
song.
but once you start doing it, you're like, can't touch this. Even when someone says something to you, you're like, can't touch this.
I love it. I mean, honestly, too, you're pulling in some fun and some humor into, why do we always have to be serious all the time about all of this? So I had to get into the habit of turning that music on.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't do that for a long time. I was a total, classic rock, all kinds of whatever, maybe a little hard rock as a teenager. Somewhere along the line, I lost my music. I'm not really sure how or why, but rediscovered it more recently in the last 5 or 10 years. And now I've created the habit of it. And this is part of what you're talking about. So you got to understand it, notice it, but then you got to do it enough times that it becomes this new thing, right? How was that for you?
Exactly. Now it's like a pattern. I have a book, which I suggest that people have. I'm a paper person, so I do use a computer, because, as writers, that transposing stuff, that got old. So I will write directly in the computer. When it comes to my day-to-day, what is Kim doing? I have a book for that. So I use my book, and I have my mark. I have a purple highlighter I use, because I want to be able to read it later when I draw my stuff on it. And I really keep track of it, and I blast my music, and I'm really starting to see what I did, because, it's funny, because we have talked at poetry events, and back in the day, when people say, oh, Kim, you're doing great, I'd be like, I don't know what you're looking at. I don't see it. I just kept saying, it has to be more, it has to be more, it has to be more. And until you start looking at what you're doing now, more will never be enough.
Yeah, oh man, no doubt. Thank you for that. You got one more haiku for us, please?
Of course. I
Okay.
do. How many times do you have to fall before you stop tripping yourself?
I love these, you guys. I'm in love with these little tiny poems. These little tiny poems that sort of hit you right in the soul and like just call out your truths. This is Kim B. Miller. Okay, so Miss Lilia Shoshana Ray disappeared earlier, so I'm going to read her bio for you. She is the author of The Art of Listening to Angels. She teaches how to develop a relationship with your personal angel team to live a life on purpose. She believes when we live on purpose, we bring heaven on earth, which is her personal mission and possible dream. Welcome, Lilia. Talk to us about this amazing chapter of yours.
Thank you, Laura. So my chapter is about basking in angel energy as a healing practice. And that idea of basking in angel energy came to me this year. And I'd been working with angels for over 20 years and calling them in during meditation and journaling and different ways of working with them, growing into calling them in and listening to them as I wrote my book in 2016. I had to, it's like sometimes we write and teach what we most need to pay attention to. And even though I had my connection to angels, I wasn't always listening to them. So in thinking about what healing practice could I write about that is just a little bit different, this idea of basking in angel energy. And the cool thing about it is that you don't have to have any prior experience with angels in order to do it, because you can use your imagination and just intend to connect with them. We have so many images in our culture about angels. Not everybody believes that they really exist or that they can have a connection with them, but we certainly have lots and lots of representations of them. And so we can draw on those with our imagination and bring them in and just know that they're all about love. And so this whole basking is to just imagine being surrounded by them and held by them. And funny thing, in order to get into that space, what do I suggest we use and focus on? Our breath.
Hey, there it is.
So I love that we've talked so much about that and how we bring that into any healing practice for ourselves. It's, just like we have to breathe if we're going to live, and we also need to develop that breath work in order to bring any healing practice and have that work for us. So in my description of this basking in healing energy, I describe it as something as easy as basking in sunshine. So imagine yourself on a beach on the sand, and you're in that sunshine and you're just basking and allowing it to just heal you with its light, and just shifting it so that we can imagine the angels surrounding us and being the unconditional loving energy that they are. And they surround us and allow us to feel that loving energy that we can then just relax in and let go of whatever is bothering us, worrying us, getting in the way of our being whole and well and thriving in our lives. So that we can bring practical things, we can bring physical ailments into it, whatever, financial things. There's, whatever it is that is, kind of working us, we can bring into that beautiful, loving energy and just relax into it and let it go let them help us. When I connect with angels, either on my own, or I conduct what I call angel connection sessions with clients, and currently doing them by phone, we just call them in and feel their energy, and then bring whatever the issue is into that energy and receive inspirations, visuals, different physical sensations. Just it's magical, and never know what's going to show up. It can be something that you do on your own, so that either by following the instructions in my chapter or listening to a meditation that I give as a resource. You can do it on your own, in your own space, and then build on it. So it's been a wonderful thing for me. I love it.
Thank you, Lilia. And you guys who are listening, to all of the listeners, these chapters are amazing. The stories themselves that the authors are sharing, well, I believe that there's healing in the story as well as the tool that they're teaching. And those stories are pretty amazing. And I always thought the first line of your bio should be, Lilia, former lawyer turned angel connector. Because when you start to talk about yourself and the angel energy and all the stuff, and like, I would have no idea, where you started your journey. And of course, I'm privy to that story, and I appreciate knowing you that way. But also, you shared in this chapter a pretty raw part of your story, and not meaning for you to tell it here because people are going to have to wait for the book, but how did it feel to tell your story?
Well, it was hard because I have evolved from that time. I've healed a lot, and I thank my angels for helping me heal. But as I thought about what story would be appropriate for this book, one of the things is I knew that I wanted to write something about my connection to angels and how angels work with me. And they like to work with all of us to help us accomplish and do our soul's purpose, our mission in life. And so I reflected on my mission, which is bringing heaven on earth and helping others do that. As impossible as it may seem, it's my possible dream. And so I thought, okay, going to speak to that. I think I need to talk about that time that felt like hell in my life. And so I shared that, and it felt uncomfortable as I tapped back into that energy, but part of my reason for it was I recognize that many people right now are feeling like they're living a bit of hell.
Yeah.
And I want them to see that it's possible to bring angel energy into the hellish places and those feelings and heal at depth, whether it's something they've currently experienced or something in the past that hasn't healed yet. That is possible, and the angels want to help us with it because they share their love, and they're, it's just beautiful, loving energy when we call them in. And they want us to know that they see that love in us, and they want to bring that forward through whatever we're experiencing. It can feel dark and yucky, and we can, be so ashamed of ourselves or just so angry we can't see it. But as we allow them to reflect our love by giving their love, shining their light on us, they help us heal. So
Less worrying, more basking, you guys.
Yes.
Thanks, Lilia. Dr. Kim, you talked about this a few minutes ago in terms of holistic healing and, you know, why holistic? What is up with holistic versus just regular old good healing?
As you said before, I have a lot of science degrees and I am a lover of science and I believe in it and I dig it. But what happens is when you get deeper and deeper and deeper into science, like when you start going into physics and quantum physics, when you get down to the particles and then you go into the theories associated with all of that, and even, you know, all of even Einstein's work and very famous scientists, when you really start to study their work, you realize they're talking about holistics. They're talking about exactly what Lilia just said. And they're showing the existence of that. Like the string theory says there has to be 11 dimensions for their theories to work, for the numbers to crunch out, and they do very well. There has to be 11 dimensions for that to happen. And we only know of 3, height, width, and depth, plus time. And Einstein thought of time. I mean, the time-space continuum is Einstein, so now we have 4. There are more dimensions, and science knows that, and holistic healing knows that, but I don't think the general public knows that.
They only know, oh my,
depth.
they only know the movie. What is the movie with the DeLorean? Come on, help me out. They only know the time.
Oh,
Back to the Future.
There you go.
Exactly. Right. Oh, that's kind of real. Like we know the physicists can do this. They've done it in the laboratory. They can put an atom in 2 places at one time. Let's do the whole avatar experience. Like, you know, Jesus was seen here and there. Buddha was seen here in India and in the East at the same time. Oh, that's just a bunch of baloney. Well, really? We know atoms can be in 2 places simultaneously. You have to speed them up. They have to be really fast and they have to be in a vacuum, but we can do it. So science is getting to the point to where it's matching holistic healing. And then what you just heard Lilia say, that's beautiful. I want to be there. And so I feel like what I'm doing, I'm bridging the science mind and like making it what Lilia is saying, digestible and realistic and reality, and showing this is the science that we have that does this. And you can trust me as a scientist, a science person. What we were talking about before, I really didn't put this prop here, but what Richard and I are doing is this, and the foundation that we create, like I do a lot of yoga, like on Roku, it's Yoga RX with Dr. Kim. So, we work for free a lot of times, don't we, Richard?
Yes, we do.
So all that's free. And what Richard does, he's doing a lot of work too, but we're trying to create this because most people don't have either one. They're just floating out there in anxiety world and going to the doctor and getting anxiety medication. And that is not the solution. I can guarantee you that. They know that. The doctors know that. The doctors are like, I don't know what to do. Here's some anxiety medication. That's all I can do. I'm sorry. So Richard and I are here to do this. But then Lilia and Kim come along and they'll show you how to plant the plant. And then you get to live this life. And so we're all playing our role. The yoga and the Tai Chi, the ancient movement type exercises they knew what they were doing. There's a reason why they've lasted so long, because they had the unifying the breath, the spirit, and the mind coming together was their goal. It wasn't to exercise their abs. They worked out all the time. They did labor. They didn't have to do exercise. They were hanging their laundry up. So they weren't thinking exercise. We're stealing it and using it like that. And we're using it as a hook for the general public because they do want to work out.
Yeah.
And but we're really trying to move people along to Lilia's work and Kim's work, so that they can become this beautiful orchid. And that is heaven on earth. Richard and I are here for heaven on earth too. And with Kim's haikus, man, she puts things in perspective so that you can. She's the fertilizer. She's like, this is how you grow. You don't live in a coffin.
I love it. You sure you didn't put that there on purpose? Okay.
I really did not. Actually, it was somewhere else, and I thought, I want a flower beside me, and I went over and got it over there and set it there. And I also think Lilia, I think your angels followed us here today. because I think, and they shut your computers down because they made me lead you two in.
So, so Richard, why holistic?
Well, my goodness, Dr. Kim really covered the waterfront there. And thank you for including me in
It's true.
what you were saying. Just to repeat, holistic for me is, it starts with the body, because that's where we are right now. We are in 3D, and we need to remember that we're grounded to the earth. We're part of the earth plane. But then it moves, and it moves into our heart, and our heart is all about emotions. And sometimes those emotions are rough and ragged, as Lilia was describing, and sometimes they're smooth and angelic like. But we move into our heart, and the heart is a huge component of Qigong. And then we move into our mind. We use our intention and our attention both to, especially when we're doing a movement, we're intending that Qi to come into us, and then we pay attention to how it feels on the inside. So we're using our mind a great deal. In fact, the saying in Qigong is, the Qi follows the Yi. Yi in Chinese is mind, and Qi, of course, is the energy. So it's the same old New Age saying that we've heard a lot, and that is energy flows where intention goes, or attention goes, both. And then finally, there's the spiritual connection. And in Chinese, the word is Shen, S-H-E-N, Shen. And that's where we connect heaven and earth. Human beings with our consciousness, which, by the way, in my mind is a fifth dimension, human beings are the connectors between earth, that's under our feet, and heaven that's above our heads. And in Chinese medicine, we are the connectors. We are the connectors of heaven and earth. And so, yes, just as Lilia's possible project is to bring heaven on earth, we're the ones to do it. There is nobody else, nothing else out there right now, at least that we know of, that can make that connection. So that's holistic for me.
I like it. You're making me think also of one of the forms in Taekwondo that I practice, which is a much more outwardly expressed martial art. But one of the forms is named Heaven and Earth. The Korean name of the title of the form is Heaven and Earth. You're just making me think about it. It's interesting, right? Kim B, I want to talk about this in a little bit different way with you, because you and I have stood on stages and we've watched our fellow poets stand on stages and heal in the moment of spoken word. And so when you think about holistic healing and you think about that family of poets and what's happening there, how is it for you in terms of just thinking about holistic healing?
It's really important. A lot of people think of poetry, first of all, as just entertainment, which is, we get common. It's very common. Or they go, roses are red. And I'm like, oh.
I'm guilty. I've written a poem like that, I think.
Exactly.
Yeah, okay.
And they're like, roses are red, finish it. I'm like, I ain't gonna do. So poetry is so healing. And I've heard several poets, and as you have, say poetry has saved my life. And they mean literally. This is not some figuratively, pie in the sky little phrase that they use. Writing their thoughts out on paper has saved them. I also co-teach poetry in a women's prison. And to see them change from coming into some of them walk-in poets. Some of them walk in, I'm floored. I'm literally like, what did you just, could you do that whole poem again for me? So it's not that they're all amateurs. Some of them are really professional poets. And some come in frustrated, and sometimes they don't want to talk about poetry. They want to talk about their day. Mm-hmm. And I say, so what did you write? And they wrote about their day in a poetic form. And for them, that was releasing. So people don't understand the capability of the mind. And poetry captures a lot of that. So I have poems about, and as you know, poets don't have to write about things they go through. That's another thing, because I write a lot of parent poems, and my parents would read them and be like, you do tell them, yes, I tell them it's not about you guys. You know, they know, okay, don't worry. They're not looking at you side-eye going, kind of parent were you? So, you know, we write about different things and it heals the people in the audience. And when people come to me after and say, what you said touched me, it's uncomparable to know that you changed someone's life with words. And that's
Yeah.
what words are for, even though we use them for the other things. That's what they were meant for, to lift someone up, not tear someone down.
Mm, I love that. Open mic therapy is the hashtag, you guys. Open mic therapy. Thank you. Thank you, Kimby. Okay, so you guys, let's go to Lilia. Next question I want you to answer is, I mean, there are many nuggets of wisdom on this healing journey, and y'all have been, you know, on the journey is your lifestyle. I think that we are warriors for choosing that path. I think that to show up every single day, period, is, I mean, makes you a warrior, right? And show up in your sort of vulnerable, full-on, unapologetic self is the other part of that. And do this thing that we do, showing up in front of people and trying to help them. But that's one of my little thoughts for the listeners. And so what I'd love for you to do, let's start with you, Lilia. What's one thing you want the listeners to understand about this journey that relates to your path?
That there is so much that is possible. So I talk about my possible dream of bringing heaven on earth. And there are times that it seems impossible to me. Things that occur in my life and they feel impossible. But if we just keep doing whatever it is that we can do, doing the simple things to shift our energy. Like I love bringing, you know, what you guys talked about in terms of the music. I have just started doing that recently for myself. And some of the songs that I related to in my college years that really inspired me, I've started playing those and I thought, oh, okay, they still work. But anything that we can do to take that moment to connect with our breath and remember how vital that is for us, to remind us we are still living, yay. We might not feel like it, but we are. And our breath reminds us of that and then moves us in the direction of our dreams and what we want to do. We came here for a reason. The more we tap into that and act on that, the more we bring into our lives the love, the joy, all those qualities of heaven, living a life on purpose, what we came here to do. That's at the core for me.
Nice, thank you. Richard, tell us one thing you want the listeners to know about this healing journey.
One of the things that I've been doing religiously during the COVID shutdown and isolation is a lot of chanting of Sanskrit chants. I'm doing that primarily with Deva Premal and Mitten, who have been kirtan band leaders for a long time. They're an amazing couple. And for 77 days during the COVID shutdown, they were kind of stranded in Costa Rica. And they, every day at 4 o'clock our time, or on the East Coast time, they led an almost hour-long chant, primarily around Om, and then using the Gayatri mantra. And my wife and I did that with them. And it was such a healing process. While we were shut down and isolated, and we still are, we're still being very careful about not going out and mixing too much in public. They brought a community together of thousands of people around the entire globe that they were able to bring together and have us join with them, and we chanted with them both Om and the Gayatri mantra, and it was such an hour of peace in the middle of all of this for us to do. Anyway, yeah, it was healing, it was holistic, it was calming, it was everything my qigong does for me. But I was just able to. And we're back to the music part of it too. It was musical. Meeten is an incredibly accomplished guitar player. He'd play Bob Dylan, he'd play a lot of Beatles, but then he plays a lot of his own music as well. And this was kind of bookending the chant itself. And the chant would go on sometimes as often as 108 repetitions of the Gayatri mantra, which, by the way, they're doing today at 4 o'clock East Coast time. It's just that it really made the time, not that it wasn't bearable, because I've been doing a lot of inner work anyway while we've been on the inside, but it was just another dimension to that work that we're, I believe, all called to do as holistic healers.
Thank you. Dr. Kim, what's one thing you want the listeners to understand about this journey of theirs?
There's multiple ways to do this. And like Richard was just talking about, it's Qigong and Tai Chi and mantra. And I was talking about yoga, and all the, ancient practices. There are so many things to choose from, but please choose a handful of them and start. Because I don't think I used to, back when I first started doing yoga, and I was teaching 25 classes a day, and like for 7 years, and I thought yoga was the end all be all. It fixed everything. It was the best thing on the planet. All anybody needed to do was yoga. Then I started doing Qigong. And I was like, wait a second, this is really cool too. And then I started doing mantra, and I was like, wait a second, this is really great. And it offers it's different. Yeah. And it does something different to the system. And so now I call it utopian healthcare. It used to be called PT and yoga because I thought yoga was it. But now it's utopian healthcare because now I've come to realize it's a conglomerate of things that kind of like you're doing with your book, Laura. You're bringing 25 things together, and you're saying, pick some of these and start working them. Don't just pick one either. This is a problem set. The physical body is quickly deteriorating. So is the mind. So this is a problem that's happening. This is a scientific thing, is disorder comes from order. Everything falls apart. That's just what energy does. And so you've got to work this from like 4 or 5 or 6 different angles to keep it all together and moving in the direction you want it to move. Like Lilia said, heaven on earth is a direction, but keeping it all together, you have to come at many different facets. And then also through your lifetime, it changes. Like you say you did do this set at one time, and you go, you know what, I think I'm doing this set now. And maybe one thing that I used from the past, you're evolving. And so I just want people to explore.
Yes.
That's the point.
Amen to exploring. Yes, thank you. All right, you guys, we're running out of time here. Kim B, tell the listeners one thing you want them to know about this journey.
One thing, okay.
Just one. I know it's hard.
It's a long one. I'm gonna make it quick.
Okay.
Work on your mind. We tend to focus on our body a lot, and the body is important. But if your mind isn't straight, you're unstraight. Be careful of who you let speak to you. Who you let speak to you and who you believe. Once you get yourself, your core you straight, then you can let opinions in. But right now, you really need to work on you getting straight with you.
I remember reading a little bit of that in your chapter and nodding my head, getting whiplash. You ever read the chapter and you're like, oh, yes. Okay, so I'm putting you on the spot one more time, Kim B. You got a haiku to finish us out with today?
Sure, haiku.
Okay.
You were looking for someone powerful. I just showed you your mirror.
Nice one. How perfect is that? Oh my gosh, you guys, thank you so much for saying yes to this project, for being here. Oh, there's some echo, isn't there? For just everything, for the heart and soul you put into your chapter. And I just really am honored to be here with all of you guys. Thank you. For the listeners, please explore these amazing people's websites. I'm going to have you all linked up in the show notes just below the video. So go down there and you guys are going to find the bios that I read earlier with the websites there. And the book will be coming out in July. We'll have that up here for you when it's ready. And just lastly, remember this question and maybe wake up, you know, every day with it and see how it goes. But this is one of my favorite questions. What if there is something you haven't learned yet that could change everything? And these books are full of those answers, you guys. All right, so one last quick note. If you guys want to come find me, please visit bravehealer.com, and we will see you next time. Bye, everybody.
Bye. Thank you so
Peace.
much. It was a pleasure.